Walters is a great place to watch the NBA Finals with friends. It's open late and located right across the street from Nationals Park.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Estrada sets. And the pitch. Swing a ground ball up the middle. It's on through into center field, a base hit. Mead around third on his way to the plate. Up with the ball is Merrill. He will make no throw home. He lobs it in to the shortstop Bogart. Stopping at second is Abrams. And on at first with a clutch. 2-out RBI single up the middle is Jacob Young. Driving in his 25th run of the year. And the Nationals are back in front. It's Washington 5, San Diego 4.
Here's the 2-0. Breaking ball hammered to left. This is trouble. Back on it is Lyle to the warning track. He'll look up and it's gone. Into section 102. Clears the bullpen. Sixth homer of the year for Ty France. Ties the game at 5 here in the 6th inning. Set the pitch. Merrill golfs one deep right. This is trouble. Way back goes Cruz looking up, and there it goes. Line drive over the wall for Merrill. A 2-run shot puts the Padres in front 7-5. His 5th home run of the season.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Nationals Park, where the Nats postgame summer concert series continued with a postgame concert by the great Tayo Cruz late night on Friday night. No relation to Dylan Cruz, although Dylan Cruz on Friday evening did have an RBI single. The Nats scored 4 runs over the first 3 innings, 5 runs over the first 5 innings. The offense was humming. This was looking like a fun night at Nationals Park, but the Nats ended up blowing a 5-4 6-inning lead, a 7-5 loss to the San Diego Padres in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Nats are back at 500 in MLB's 2026 regular season, 29-29, just 10-17 at home versus 19-12 on the road. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. Also, we have a new batch of Nats Chat podcast t-shirts that are coming. They are being printed early next week or available for pre-order at our website. Order now. You should get your order by July 4th weekend. The website is natschatpodcast.com. That's natschatpodcast.com, and we appreciate the support very much. So there are so many familiar faces on the San Diego Padres, as I'm sure many of you know. The Padres manager is former Nats relief pitcher Craig Stammen. The Padres bench coach is Randy Knorr, who worked for the Nats for years in a variety of roles, including as bench coach. The Padres hitting coach is former Nats outfielder Steven Sousa Jr. The Padres third base coach is Bob Henley, who worked for the Nats for years in a variety of roles, including as third base coach. And the Padres starting pitcher on Friday evening was former Nats starting pitcher Lucas Giolito. The Nats got to Giolito. He allowed 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. But Mark, the Nats pitching, which had been so good lately, was not so good in this game. Although I guess you could say if you like pitching, you in this game got your fill. Nats pitchers combined for a whopping 184 pitches over 9 innings.
And that's how you end up with a 3-hour and 18-minute 9-inning game, Al, the longest of the season for the Nationals, at least among those that didn't go to extra innings. You may be able to hear in the background the Tayo Cruz concert still going on here well past 11 o'clock at Nats Park. This game was not dynamite from the Nationals' standpoint. This was a rough one. And honestly, this is more like their games were in April, and not so much like they've been recently in May, where the pitching has been so much better. It just wasn't there for them in this one, and it really was across the board. I mean, other than maybe Orlando Ribalta, nobody else looked sharp. They threw a ton of pitches. The Padres fouled off a bunch. I think it was 42 total foul balls for them in the course of the game. Long innings, dragged it out. they wore down the Nats pitching staff, and you saw the end result.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how high that Nats pitch count as a team was. 184 pitches over 9 innings, 20 plus pitches per inning. You average like 17 pitches per inning. That's high. 20 plus pitches per inning from this Nats pitching staff in this game. So the Nats went with an opener in this game. Paxton Schultz, the first time that the Nats used a righty as an opener in this regular season. And Paxton Schultz allowed a run in 1 inning. He set the tone properly with a 26-pitch first inning. Gave up a leadoff single by Fernando Tatis Jr. to center field on an 0-2 pitch. Then gave up a single by Gavin Sheets into right center field. And then gave up a full count RBI sac fly by Xander Bogaerts to put the Padres up 1-0. Also, Schultz issued a 2-out, 8-pitch walk of Jackson Merrill. So we were off and running with the pitch inefficiency. And then we had the Nats bulk man in this game, Andrew Alvarez. And we, on the podcast, of course, had been singing the praises of Andrew Alvarez. And look, he had done a nice job. This was not his best game for sure. Alvarez in this game, 3 runs in 3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 1 strikeout. He, over his 3 innings, threw 74 pitches. Think about that. 74 pitches over just 3 innings, 45 strikes. 29 balls. Alvarez in the top of the third allowed a run on 2 singles, including a 2-out first pitch opposite field RBI single by Manny Machado to right to cut the Nats lead to 3-2. Alvarez in the top of the fourth allowed 2 runs on 3 singles, and he issued a walk. Perhaps our expectations for Andrew Alvarez had grown too high, but it was a shame that he did not put forth a better performance in this game. Like we know he can. We've seen him be really good.
Yeah, this is really the first time we've seen him like this, I feel like, at all. And it was out of character for him. Now, give some credit to the Padres lineup. They just, he would get them to 2 strikes and he couldn't finish them off. They fouled off a ton, 18 foul balls against him in just 3 innings. They made him work. He wasn't able to finish off the at-bats. They did. They turned them into some good quality at-bats in the end. And the plan was not for Alvarez to only throw 3 innings. They wanted more length out of him. As you said, when you're averaging almost 25 pitches per inning, you're just not going to go very far. And so at the end of his 3, and now you're only 4 innings into the game, and Blake Butera has to go to another reliever at that point. So it really just set everything back for the rest of the game. Now, I don't necessarily want to view this as like the end-all, be-all of Andrew Alvarez. And I know that he technically was taking over Jake Irvin's spot in the rotation, even though he didn't start the game. I don't want to read too much into it. He has been good way more than he was bad like he was in this one. So I still want to see more of him. There's an argument to be made here. Did they really need the opener or not? Now, the Padres are very right-handed heavy. So that was the thought process. The first time they've used a righty in the opener spot. Schultz, as you outlined, was not real sharp himself. I don't know that Alvarez would have been better, but I do wonder if that was a little bit of overthinking it and just let him start the game and see how far he can go, as opposed to using somebody else in the first inning and then bringing him in after that.
The other thing, too, is this. Unless your name is P.J. Poulin, you're not exactly thriving as an opener for the Nats right now. The opener strategy overall has worked for the Nats, but that's because of P.J. Poulin. When people other than Poulin have been used in the opener role, so we're talking about Richard Lovelady and now Paxton Schultz, the results have not been particularly good.
Correct. This is the 11th time they've used an opener so far this year. Poulin has done it 7 times and only given up 2 runs. The other 4, that's Richard Lovelady and Paxton Schultz, and collectively they've given up 3 runs in those 4 opener appearances. So I agree. I think it makes sense to use Poulin, who's now actually back at AAA again. I think it makes sense with him when he's opening for Michaelis or Littell, even though those 2 have been much better. But if you have a tough lefty-heavy lineup that you're facing, I get it. I don't think Lovelady is right for it. He seems to thrive on those late inning, like high leverage spots where you can use that emotion. You just don't get that in the first inning. Plus, as we've noted, his splits have been reversed. So it doesn't really make sense to have him face lefties early in the game either. And Schultz, the first time he's done it, and yeah, they have righties up there, but Alvarez has been effective against everybody. So I just don't know that it was worth it. I think it might have been a little bit overthinking in this case. And to me at this point, like, I'm okay with the opener strategy when you're specifically facing a team with good lefties at the top of the lineup. And to me, at this point, only do it when it's Poulin and when he's opening for one of those two veteran right-handers.
If we're going to go with a righty opener, what about Clayton Better? He seems to me to be someone who could potentially do it. Do you think they've ever considered him?
Maybe he's got the devastating slider when he can throw it on point, and that's a tough at bat. For righties, you could even argue Cole Henry, who made it back from the IL. He's also got a big breaking ball that's tough for right-handers to hit. We still haven't seen how Better slots in now to the bullpen. He started the year essentially as their right-handed closer. He goes on the IL, and since then, you've seen a bunch of other guys step up, including Ribalta, Varland, Lovelady against lefties. We haven't really seen Better yet used like that as a closer. I don't know if they're intending to put him back in that spot or if he's just one of the guys now that they could use. So if they don't think of him as the end of the game guy, maybe you think of him early on. But again, I think it's overdoing it. I don't know that with a righty, there's that much platoon advantage in the first inning that it's worth it. Go ahead and let your guy start and then line up all your best arms for 6, 7, 8, and 9. I get it. Every inning is just as equally important. But for guys who've done this for a while and are used to pitching the 8th and 9th inning in those big spots at the end of games, it's not the same thing taking the mound in the top of the first when the crowd is only half full and they're still walking in and there's sunlight outside instead of darkness. I just think it's hard to replicate that. It's not the same pitching the first inning.
Well, the Nats in this 7-5 loss to the Padres on Friday evening used 3 pitchers beyond the opener, Paxton Schultz and the bulk man Andrew Alvarez. Orlando Ribalta did well, as Mark mentioned. Ribalta tossed a perfect top of the 5th. Mitchell Parker allowed 3 runs, 1 earned in 2 innings. Parker in the top of the 6th allowed a run, gave up a 1-out solo homer by Ty France to left field to tie the game at 5. The homer going a projected 413 feet per Statcast. And Parker in the top of the 7th allowed 2 runs, gave up another homer, gave up a 2-out, 2-run homer by Jackson Merrill to right field to put the Padres up 7-5. That homer went a projected 414 feet per Statcast. Now, both of those runs were unearned due to a 1-out throwing error by second baseman Nasim Nunez. And Cole Henry, as we mentioned, is back. He tossed 2 scoreless innings, including a scoreless top of the 8th, despite Keibert Ruiz committing a 1-out catcher's interference error and despite giving up a 2-out single and issuing a 2-out hit by pitch to load the bases. But somehow that did end up being a scoreless top of the 8th. Good to have Cole Henry back. He was out for a while. The Nats on Friday morning announced having returned Henry from his minor league rehab assignment and having reinstated him from the 15-day injured list. He had been on that since April 13th due to a right rotator cuff strain. So with Henry, we've seen some good things over his time at the major league level. Maybe not the consistency that you want, but he has demonstrated some upside. So that's been good to see. Hopefully we see more of that. And I thought that some of the most interesting stuff from manager Blake Butera's postgame press conference on Friday night was about Mitchell Parker. I thought that Butera was actually pretty forthcoming about how they view Parker and how once you get beyond 2 or 3 innings, the stuff wanes, the fatigue sets in, and he was pretty blunt about why the Nats are using Parker the way that they're using him.
Providing the length that he has when he's around 2 to 3 innings. I think anything more than that, you see some fatigue set in.
And we have seen Parker do some good things as a reliever, but he has had some rough outings. And, giving up 2 homers on Friday evening would qualify certainly as a rough outing.
Sure. I think it was telling. I mean, if anybody thought that they're just like waiting for a rotation spot to put him back in, no, it's pretty clear they're not viewing him that way. And even maybe not viewing him as much as a bulk reliever, as he said, at most 2-3 innings. And in this game, the plan was that he was just going to that Jackson Merrill at bat in the 7th was going to be his last hitter. If he got him, that was going to be it for him. They were not going to bring him back again after that. I know there have been some outings that have worked for him, but in the bigger picture, he's still got an ERA north of 5. I think it's well north of 5. This is kind of who we have seen over a couple of seasons now. And it's not to say that he can't figure it out and that he doesn't have his moments, but at some point you do have to wonder, is this just who Mitchell Parker is, and is that worth investing in? He's pitching in some high leverage spots, 6th, 7th inning, and those have not gone as well. I think his best appearances have been earlier in games when you're pulling a Michaelis or a Littell early and bringing in Parker in, say, the 4th or 5th inning. I think he's done better at that than these late inning, high leverage spots. And I'll be curious if they want to continue with him in that regard. As for Cole Henry, I was glad to see him back. obviously. Nice to see him put up some zeros. I was stunned that they let him go 2 innings in his first game back from the IL, in particular because he talked about before he got hurt. He said he was used a lot. It was a heavy workload, and he didn't think he was quite ready for it yet. And that altered his mechanics. His arm slot dropped, and that maybe as he's trying to compensate for feeling fatigued, and that led to a shoulder injury. He threw 43 pitches in one of those games in April, and then it was one more outing, and he went on the IL. So I was really surprised that he went 2 innings in this one. I know he made 5 rehab appearances. Everything looked great. The stuff was good in this one. No complaints about that. I just thought they'd be a little more careful with him in his first game back from the IL.
Well, he only needed 32 pitches to navigate his 2 innings. By Nat standards in this game, that was a supremely pitch efficient. I mean, I can't overstate this enough, how inefficient these pitchers were. Mitchell Parker in 2 innings, 45 pitches. I mean, that is ridiculous that you need 45 pitches to get through 2 innings. Orlando Revolta in his perfect inning, a mere 7 pitches. And I guess he was pulled after 1 inning to preserve him for Saturday's game, ? I mean, I don't know. Otherwise, a guy throws 7 pitches in a perfect inning in this game. Given the lack of length from Andrew Alvarez, that certainly did seem to set up for Revolta throwing more than 1 inning. I can only assume that Blake Butera wanted to preserve Revolta for Saturday.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, that was quick. He'd give you another one, and now you're able to get to the back end of the pen. But yes, you have to think beyond this game. Revolta has become one of their most trusted guys. That was early for him. 5th inning. We've been seeing him in the 8th and 9th a lot more. But I think that's a sign that, yes, they want to make sure that he's still available for the rest of the series, probably in some big high leverage spots. So that would be the logic behind that because, yeah, he was so quick with the 7-pitch inning that he easily could have come back for another one. But I think they're viewing him as he's the guy we bring in a big spot, sometimes bases loaded. He's done a good job getting out of it. And they want to make sure he is available as much as possible and doesn't have to be shut down for the day because he pitched too much the previous night.
Hey, are you a law firm partner looking for a better team? Take your 900 OPS to a championship caliber team by contacting Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas, who is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. market. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across D.C. and the country. Zenith has placed attorneys at almost every top law firm in D.C. and New York. And unlike your current firm's innovation committee, Zenith actually built technology that works. Zenith's proprietary candidate app lets lawyers track where they've been submitted and helps Mason's team identify the best opportunities faster and more efficiently. No other legal recruiting firm has anything like this. Mason regularly works with lawyers from the DOJ, SEC, and law firms looking for better platforms, stronger clients, or, let's be honest, a lot more money, because unlike baseball players, lawyers are not stuck under team control while ownership refuses to spend. And if your current partnership meetings feel more hopeless than Mets fans in October, it may be time to make a move. Bet on yourself with the best legal recruiter out there advocating for your future. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535. That's 202-486-3535.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend. The big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IP Vanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at ipvanish.com. That's IPVANISH.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to ipvanish.com.
Giolito's into the wind. And the pitch swung on, hit in the air to right center field, fairly deep. Back goes Laureano. Way back, warning track wall. He leaps. It's off the wall in play. Cameras past the center fielder Merrill. Ruiz around second, heading for third. They have signaled it's a home run. Bang! Zoom goes Keibert Ruiz. Home run number 5.
Well, the Nats in this 7-5 loss to the Padres on Friday evening were good offensively. 5 runs, 9 hits, which were 2 home runs and 7 singles, 6 walks, 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. As mentioned, the Nats got to Lucas Giolito. He allowed 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. The Nats got home runs from Curtis Mead and Keibert Ruiz. How about these two guys and the continued production from them? Mead as the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a single, and a walk. Mead in the Nats 2-run first, a 1-out full count 2-run homer to left center to put the Nats up 2-1. The homer going a projected 414 feet per Statcast. Keibert Ruiz was the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter, 2 for 4, solo homer and a single. Did commit that aforementioned catcher's interference error, but Ruiz in the Nats 1-run second, 1-out first pitch solo homer to right center field for a 3-1 Nats lead. It is remarkable what these two guys are doing here. Curtis Mead's OPS now is at 856, including a slugging percentage of 496, and Keibert Ruiz now has an OPS of 798, including a slugging percentage of 514. Your Keibert Ruiz slugging percentage now is well north of 500. Just ridiculous. And, you know, it's funny. I'll be on X during the game like I'm sure you are and most people are, and you'll get people who you don't necessarily follow, but, you know, the algorithm says, okay, you'd be interested in what this person has to say. Someone, I think it was just a Nats fan, had this. The Keibert Ruiz contract continues to look better and better. And I had to laugh because saying that kind of thing was unthinkable just a few weeks ago. But right now, yeah, given what he's being paid, a catcher who's slugging 514, that's a bargain.
800 OPS and great framing. Yeah, you'll take that from anybody on a long-term contract. Look, it's been great to see. Everybody is excited. They're happy for him, given everything that he has gone through, and they just hope he can continue it. It's been a fantastic month for him, but he's got to prove now that he can continue to do this beyond that. And I will say, just to put a little dousing of the fire here, the home run was great, but he came up twice more after that with runners in scoring position. He stranded the bases loaded in the 3rd inning and then struck out with 2 on in the 5th. So there's still work to do from a consistency standpoint, but you cannot argue with how hard he is hitting the ball and hitting it in the air, and that's what you've been waiting for years from him. So, that's great. And Mead, I mentioned this last week, he's doing this against right-handers. 6 of his 8 homers are off righties. I think his OPS against righties is now over 900. He is the everyday third baseman. He's not going to play 162, but he's starting there the vast majority of games, no matter who they are facing, and he has earned that at this point, and that's been such a welcome development for them, for a guy who initially just looked like a platoon first baseman, where he's going to start maybe twice a week against lefties. All of a sudden, he's their number 3 hitter and pretty much everyday third baseman, and he has performed absolutely well enough to deserve that kind of playing time.
Thursday marked the 2-month anniversary of the Nats on March 28th, announcing having traded minor league catcher Boston Smith to the Chicago White Sox for Curtis Mead. How good does that trade look right now? Mead has just been so good, and Keibert Ruiz continues to produce. Now, the offense was good. There were some frustrating moments. You just mentioned a few of them. Bottom of the 8th, boy, did the Nats have a prime opportunity to tie the game, if not take the lead. The Padres went to Mason Miller to finish out the 8th and then pitch the 9th. And Miller, for a good chunk of this appearance, was off. He was throwing a lot of balls, was having a hard time finding the strike zone. Ultimately, 1 1/3 scoreless innings for Miller for the save, but he did issue 2 walks, and just unfortunate that the Nats could not come through. Luis Garcia Jr., a line out to end the bottom of the 8th inning to Ramon Laureano in left field. The bases were loaded. Laureano looked like he might have a hard time making the play, makes the play. And it was interesting what he did after he made the catch. He slammed his glove against the outfield wall. Almost, it's the kind of thing you do when you're breathing a sigh of relief and you're almost kind of frustrated that the play was as hard as it was. But Laureano is a good defensive outfielder, made the play. But man, for a moment, that looked like maybe an extra base hit from Garcia to tie the game, if not put the Nats ahead.
Runners will go. The pitch, swing, and a line drive left field. Back onto the left fielder. Making the catch is Laureano as he crosses onto the warning track. Nearly going over his head in a tough play.
I know the end result isn't what everybody wanted, but that was a great at-bat from Luis Garcia to work the count full. This guy, Mason Miller, if you haven't seen him and you got a taste of it in this game, he might very well be the best reliever in baseball, has been unhittable at times. The combination of throwing over 100 miles an hour with the fastball and a devastating slider as well. And Garcia, who, as we know, is a free swinger, he stayed patient through that at bat. He got ahead in the count 2-0. He actually took a 2-0 fastball down the pipe. That was probably the one he should have swung at. But at the same time, you want to give him credit because here's a guy who's so swing happy that he actually, once he got ahead in the count, was willing to take a pitch and keep working the at bat. He got to the full count. He's a good fastball hitter. He got 101 over the plate, and he hit it on the screws and a couple more inches, and it clears Laureano's head. And this is a whole different ball game at that point, and they would have pulled off a comeback against one of the best closers in baseball. There was a lot of good stuff. I know they didn't score off him, but there were some really good at-bats. You had Mead drawing a walk off him. You had Wood drawing a walk off him. They made him made him work a lot to go an inning and a third and bring him in the 8th inning and then coming back out for the 9th. So there was a lot of good stuff there. They just missed the end result they wanted, but I think you can take something away from the quality of at-bats they put together there.
When you talk about this offense this season versus the offense of recent seasons, one of the big differences is the home run for sure. But another difference is we are seeing such good plate appearances by these Nats hitters, right? Competitive at-bats in which Nats batters are engaged. You're not seeing the Nats give away at-bats like we saw so often in recent years, especially last season. The approach at the plate for so many of these guys just seems to be so healthy and so good. And I think that's a big part of why this offense has been so consistent so far this season.
And it makes you believe that they're going to find a way to come back and do it. And you heard Blake Butera after the game also talk about how he felt like Craig Stammen going to Mason Miller before the 8th inning was over was a sign of just how good the Nats lineup has been.
He's an unbelievable reliever, one of the best in baseball, if not the best.
That he would have to be that aggressive to use his closer. The guy he replaced, Jason Adam, is one of the best setup men in baseball. The back end of the Padres bullpen is fantastic. That, to me, and I think a lot of people, it says that Stammen was really worried about how good this Nats lineup is. He said, okay, I'm bringing in my closer right now to try to get James Wood and Luis Garcia to end the 8th and then bring him back for the 9th. So, all of this is a good sign. I do have to point out the one really not good at bat during all of this, and it was right before Miller came in. It's 2 on with 1 out in the 8th. Adam is still the pitcher. Nasim Nunez's spot is up, and we know that Nunez offensively, we know what he is, and so why it's tempting to pinch hit for him. The problem is the guy who pinch hit for him was Jorbit Bibas, who may be a better hitter than Nasim Nunez, but he sent a fly ball to left field, a lazy fly ball on the first pitch that he saw for the second out of that inning, and that out left him 0 for 24 with runners in scoring position this year. Yes, 0 for 24. I understand that can be a fluky stat, and you don't want to read too much into it, and maybe in theory that's still a small sample size. But when you combine 0 for 24 with not a good quality at bat, first pitch pop-up like that, at some point you got to start looking at this and saying, why is he being put in these situations if he has not proven that he can give you a good quality at bat with runners in scoring position? It's not just the end result. It's the process that led to that end result, and it hasn't been very good.
No, and 0 for 24 is rough, man. No question about that. James Wood in this game is the Nats starting DH and number one batter, 0 for 3, but 2 walks. C.J. Abrams as the Nats starting shortstop and cleanup batter, 0 for 2, but 2 walks and a stolen base. Good RBI single by Dylan Cruz in this game. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 5 batter, 1 for 5 with an RBI single. Cruz in the Nats 1-run third, 2-out RBI single to center field for a 4-2 Nats lead. The single had an exit velocity of 105.2 miles per hour per StatCast. We are trying not to judge Cruz too often. We're trying not to make it so that every game is a referendum on Dylan Cruz. That was a good result. He is hitting balls hard. He's just not getting the extra base hits that you want to see. But that was an instance of Dylan Cruz doing what we know he can do, and that's be productive. And like I said, that exit velo, 105.2, that plays. Just needs to elevate balls more. We're still waiting on that.
Yeah, and that's one of the better at-bats we've seen him. He had a scorched line drive to third base in his next at-bat that was caught, but that's one, a couple, 1 foot in either direction. That's a double down the line. So that, would have been good. Faced Miller in the 9th, got a 101-mile-an-hour fastball, sent a fly ball to right field. I think he's got hits in his last 6 games. He's not doing a lot more than that 1 hit necessarily, but I think what I've seen from him so far is incremental progress. There have, in most of these games, been at least 1 good quality at bat where there was loud contact and often putting the ball in the air. Now it's a matter of doing it multiple times a game and doing it more consistently. As we've said all along, I think it helps that the lineup as a whole has been this productive, and it allows him to be doing this in a lower pressure environment. It's not like every at bat for him is life or death, and like this is all going to decide if he's going to stay up here or not. He's here. He's going to stay up here for a while. They're going to give him all the rope he needs and just ask him to be one of the guys in the lineup. So some good at bats, some good, results. Just need to start seeing that with a little more consistency.
Yeah, just 1 walk over his 39 plate appearances. Certainly would like to see that tick up.
Baseball fans know every pitch can change a game. Playoff hockey is just as intense. Every shift, every second matters. NHL on TNT has the best coverage, with stars like Paul Bissonnette bringing laughs and Wayne Gretzky breaking down the action. The studio crew makes every game feel bigger, just like a big Nationals win. Playoff hockey is unpredictable, physical, and full of overtime drama. If you love sports, you'll love the energy. Watch the Stanley Cup playoffs on TNT, TBS, truTV, and HBO Max.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of good memories here in this ballpark, in this city. It's been a while since I've been back, a couple years, but obviously never thought I'd be in this role in this ballpark, but it's a lot of fun to come back and remembered a lot of those good memories.
All right, so the Padres. Craig Stammen, Randy Knorr, Steven Sousa Jr., Bob Henley. It is remarkable when you look at the roster of coaches for the Padres, how many Nats connections there are. I know you guys got a chance to talk to Craig Stammen prior to the game. What stood out to you from what he had to say? Just
how comfortable he seems in this role. And this was a shocker to a lot of people. This is somebody who was a career reliever, had never coached, never been a pitching coach, never expressed an interest in doing any of this. He, after retiring a few years ago, continued to work for the Padres as kind of a special assistant in their front office. And as they were going through the managerial search, the early stages of it, A.J. Preller, their president of baseball operations, said, Craig, maybe you should actually be the one, because he was part of the interviewing process, I think, for some other candidates. And Craig was taken aback and didn't think this was something he was ever going to do. But the more he thought about it, I think he was convinced that, yes, this is worth a shot. He's always been very engaged, very popular guy. I know in D.C. he was still relatively young, so he wasn't necessarily thought of as a leader on that team, but very well respected as kind of the Brad Lord of that team, the pitcher who would just go out and do whatever you needed from him, however many innings, whatever role, and really thrived like that. When he got to San Diego a few years later after he got hurt with the Nationals, he did become the leader for that bullpen. At that time, it was a very young, rebuilding team, and he was experienced, having pitched in the playoffs before, and he became a mentor to a lot of them. And I think that's why they looked at him as a candidate for the managerial job. But he sounded and looked very comfortable being in this role. He very much appreciates the knowledge and expertise that he has from those coaches, Henley and Knorr. I got to tell you, seeing Bobby Henley and Randy Knorr in any uniform other than a Nationals one was shocking to me. You have to understand, both these guys go back to the Expos. That's how long they had been in the organization and had not worked for anybody else. I know they had multiple roles over the years, but had not worked for anybody else. I've never seen either of those guys in any uniform other than a Nationals uniform. And to see them in the Padres brown and yellow was like striking to me. Very odd to see that, but glad to see that they've all gotten this opportunity. Steven Sousa as well. We'll see. The Padres took a chance with this staff. They're playing well. They're not hitting well. They are playing very well because the pitching staff is so good. And as this goes along, I'll be very interested to see how Craig Stammen handles the big situations that come up. But just in my interactions with him, before this game, I came across thinking to myself, he seems like a pretty good big league manager to me and very comfortable in this role.
Yeah, Craig Stammen's 2012 season, one of the best seasons by any non-closer Nats reliever since the franchise came here. He was so good for the Nats in that 2012 season. And it is funny with Knorr and Henley, but especially Knorr. During the game was going through each guy's resume with the Nats. It would take us like an hour to go through everything that, especially Randy Knorr, did for the Nats. It's incredible, all of the different duties he had within the Nats organization over the years. All right, we have a shout-out to deliver as we offer shout-outs on this podcast. Email Tim Shovers, natschatpodcast@gmail.com if you would like for us to deliver a shout-out to someone who you care about. A happy birthday to Olivia from your mom. Living in Delaware, the family had a lot of choices for neighboring MLB teams, but D.C. was one of our favorite places to visit as a family, so Nats it was. Today, the family is spread out and following the Nats from afar. Olivia is a very hardworking graduate student living in Brewers territory, but she has managed to make it to a couple of Nats Brewers games, including the one in which Brady House hit his first 2 major league home runs. If anyone has noticed a young woman in a red Gio Gonzalez 47 jersey at a game, you've probably seen her. Olivia's been a podcast listener for a couple of years, and this season she was able to get her mom on board as well. That's outstanding. Happy birthday, Olivia, and thank you, Mama Olivia, for now being a listener.
That's fantastic. Happy birthday to Olivia. And, as we've talked about so much, it's been great to see how this has spread all around the country, where you see fans all the time in visiting ballparks wearing their T-shirts and following us and following the team. And that's some nice dedication to be able to follow them from Milwaukee and catch them in those games and to spread the word so that now it's not just Olivia, but her mom as well, who's listening to us and following very much. So just a happy birthday to Olivia, and thanks for listening.
We are gaining in the female demographic. I love that. Game 2 of this series, Saturday afternoon, 4:05. On paper, a good pitching matchup. Now, I'm careful in saying that because every time we say that, it doesn't work out so well for the Nats. So I will just say on paper, it appears to be a pretty good matchup. Foster Griffin for the Nats and Michael King for the Padres. And if you're unfamiliar with the work of Michael King, he rather quietly in recent years has been one of the better pitchers in MLB. And Michael King, by the way, a guy who had been a reliever for a good chunk of time, has become a starter in recent years. So a good reminder of, hey, just because you are a reliever early in your career, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to be for the entirety of your career. Something for like a Brad Lord to be thinking about. But Michael King's a good pitcher. This could be a good pitching matchup. This could be a good test for this Nats offense, although we have seen this Nats offense do well against good pitchers.
I was just going to say, this is a test for Michael King to face this lineup and see how he does against James Wood, C.J. Abrams, and company. And for Foster Griffin, I know the Padres as a team have not performed offensively the way that you would expect, but those are still some really big name hitters in that lineup that he's going up against. So I want to see how he does against them. Fernando Tatis does not have a home run yet this year. That is staggering that would be the case. You just hope it doesn't happen this weekend, because eventually that guy's going to go off and it's going to happen. You just hope it's not this weekend against the Nats.
This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason and his team at Zenith Legal specialize in placing partners, associates, and senior government lawyers at elite firms across Washington, D.C. and the country. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Stammen made 49 appearances during the regular season. And Panic slaps it out to shortstop for Desmond. Another chance for the Nationals.